We live in a world that's always screaming for our attention. It demands we perform, get the likes, and seek that round of applause. But today, we're going to talk about a different kind of strength, one that's forged on the inside. This is all about building a quiet confidence that doesn't have to be loud to be, well, incredibly powerful.
So let me start with a question, and I want you to be really honest with yourself. When your head hits the pillow at night, are you just busy, or are you genuinely proud of how you spent your hours? Come on, you know the difference. It's that feeling deep in your gut when you really, truly challenged yourself versus when you've just kind of floated through the day.
And look, here's the brutal truth we've got to face. Our modern world, with its endless notifications, comforts, and distractions, it's practically built to keep us mentally soft. The path of least resistance has never been so easy to take, and honestly, it's a quiet, comfortable trap for our potential.
And that leads us to what you could call the comfort cage. It's this place where we just get so used to average, to the mundane, to just getting by, that we totally forget what it feels like to strive for something more. Relaxation without any real direction that just slowly, quietly turns into stagnation.
This right here is such a critical distinction. See, being busy usually just means you were distracted. You let things happen to you. You chose comfort. You just existed. But being proud? That's different. That means you pushed yourself. You did the actual work. You consciously chose progress over ease. One is totally passive. The other is an active vote for the person you want to become.
Now, if you've ever felt just a little out of sync with this constant hum of distraction and noise, I've got good news. It's not a flaw. In fact, it might be a huge sign that you're operating on a much deeper level. So let's get into the signs that you might just be built a little different. This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it. For a lot of people, choosing to be alone isn't some kind of social failure. It's a choice. It's about protecting your energy, your focus, your integrity in a world that often wants you to shrink yourself just to fit in. It's a position of strength, not weakness. So, believe it or not, psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called high sensory processing sensitivity. And listen, it's not a disorder, not at all. It's a trait. It just means your nervous system is wired to notice more, to process information more deeply. You're basically picking up on frequencies that most people don't even know exist. So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, you might be the person who notices the tiny, almost invisible stain on someone's shirt before they even open their mouth. You can literally feel the shift in someone's tone of voice. You find yourself replaying conversations in your head, not because you're anxious, but because you're analyzing the pauses, the tone. You just crave depth over superficial small talk. You're not overthinking, you're deeply thinking. So let's reframe this whole thing right now. This trait that the world loves to label as being too sensitive, that's actually a form of courage. Think about it. It takes incredible strength to stay open and perceptive in a world that's constantly encouraging us to just numb out and shut down.
Okay, and this brings us to a really crucial turning point, because once you recognize this about yourself, the entire game changes. You start this fundamental shift. You stop looking for approval from the outside world, and you start generating it from within.
And this shift, it creates a completely different way of moving through the world. On one side, you've got external validation. You're chasing belonging. You need the applause. You maintain friendships that are more about performance than connection. But on the other side, internal validation. You become self-sovereign. You fiercely protect your own peace. You value authenticity over everything. You'd rather be completely whole by yourself than just a fraction of who you are with others. And this explains why so many quietly confident, truly effective people have almost no social media presence. They're not hiding. They're mastering. They're way too busy building their lives, their skills, their businesses to stop and narrate it all for an audience. They get that true mastery requires your full, undivided attention. They're not posting about the grind because they're fully in the grind. So, the big question is, how do we build this internal world? Well, it's not something you can just wish for. It's about actively forging an inner fortress. And that fortress, it stands on two absolutely unshakable pillars. It really all boils down to two things: unshakable boundaries and ironclad discipline. And please, don't think of these as punishments. They're the ultimate acts of self-respect. This is such a powerful way to redefine boundaries. It's not about trying to control other people, telling them what they can and can't do. No. It's about deciding what you will do when they act a certain way. The control is 100% with you. It's all about protecting your peace and your energy. And you want to see this in action? Think about that famous interview with Tom Cruise. When the interviewer kept pushing and pushing into his personal life, he didn't yell, he didn't get defensive, he just calmly, directly looked him in the eye and stated his boundary. He took complete control of the situation with quiet, unshakable firmness. That is power.
So the second pillar is discipline. Look, we've all been sold this myth that we need motivation to get things done. But motivation is an emotion. It's fickle. It's your fair weather friend. It's always asking, so how do I feel right now? Discipline, on the other hand, is a system. It's structural. It couldn't care less how you feel. It just asks one simple question. What needs to be done?
I want you to really let this one sink in, because it's one of the most powerful mindset shifts you can ever make. Your life isn't defined by some goal way off in the future. It's defined by the daily standards you refuse to fall below. If your standard is to work out, you work out. Period. It's non-negotiable. It just becomes part of who you are.
So what happens when you build this inner fortress with strong boundaries and real discipline? What's the result? You develop this unshakable composure, a kind of presence that can command an entire room without ever raising its voice.
All right, here's a practical toolkit for that quiet power. When someone's done talking, just let the silence sit there for 3 seconds. It gives you time to think, and it makes them feel truly heard. Focus on dismantling the question, not the person. Never, ever raise your voice. State your boundaries calmly, and always remember, sometimes the loudest, most powerful response you can give is just silence.
And that's really the whole point. Real, lasting power isn't found in being aggressive or making a lot of noise. It's found in restraint, in control, and in precision. It doesn't need to prove itself by shouting from the rooftops. It just outclasses the competition. And that leaves us with one last vital question to think about. The next 5 years are going to pass no matter what you do. The only question is, who will you become in that time? Will you be the person who chose comfort, who is still just wishing for a different life? Or will you be the person who chose discipline, who built their inner world and who created a life they are truly, deeply proud of? The choice is yours, and it starts right now.